up, you guys? The Curious Owl here, and today I am giving you a book review for the book Blood Rose by Danielle Rose. Now, this was another novel that I was sent by Off Tones Publishing, so thank you again to Off Tones Publishing for sending me an e-copy of this novel. So I can't really give a clear synopsis of this like I couldn't with The Traitor's Crux by Jessica Prather, as the plot is really kind of hard to describe without going too in detail, so I will again be reading the Goodreads synopsis just to give you guys a pretty general idea of what the novel is about. There's no wrath like that of a witch scorned. Ava Taylor has been given a death sentence. As one of the only spirit users in her coven, Ava has been chosen to wield the power, the ultimate weapon against the immortal vampire species witches have been at war with for centuries. The power given by the gods to one witch of each generation is considered a great honor, but every witch before has died trying to master this all-too-powerful gift, one that the shell of a mortal can't contain for long. On the night of her birthright, Ava's coven is attacked, and Ava is left for dead. Confronted with a terrible choice, Ava must decide to either die or save herself by becoming like her enemies. Forced to seek refuge among the very beings she is sworn to kill, Ava vows revenge on those who took her former life from her. As Ava slowly transitions into a life of blood and war and battles her own feelings for a man she is supposed to hate, she realizes everything she's been told is a lie. So just from that very intense synopsis, this book was absolutely amazing. And let me say, this was a very short read. The novel itself was only 264 pages. It was absolutely crazy going through this. It was so fast-paced. There was almost no lull points, which for a strange reason I really seem to like with this one. The problem I have with high intensity being a large part of the novel is that it becomes almost too monotonous in a sense in some novels, where there definitely could be some low points to kind of give some relief, some kind of essential lull to the story. But the thing with this novel was the high intensity worked because the entire time we don't know exactly what's going on. We are literally traveling with Ava as she's going through this transition, and a lot of the things that she experiences are very intense, and it's very graphic, very kind of blood-filled, very gory. And so I really like the high intensity in this novel specifically because I think it definitely added to the atmosphere, whereas sometimes in like The Traitor's Crux by Jessica Prather, the high intensity parts that was littered throughout the novel didn't really add to the atmosphere. It just made everything seem more monotonous. So one of the things I really loved about this novel was the relationship between Ava and Jacek, who is the vampire that essentially turned Ava into a vampire. The relationship between them is strange because she's really supposed to hate him as he is a vampire, but she learns that there's kind of more to him than meets the eye, and she's really enthralled by it. And there's this kind of thing where they have a bond. Because he's the one who turned her into a vampire, she has this kind of a connection with him, which is a very common theme that I've seen with vampires who end up turning humans into vampires or something along those lines. They have this kind of a connection. It's very Vampire Academy-esque by Rochelle Mead, if you're familiar with that. It's a very strange relationship, but the more you read into the story, it actually becomes really, really interesting. I really enjoyed it. There were definitely some very steamy parts, I will say, so this is definitely not for someone who is under the age of, I would think, at least 15, because there's some very, very steamy scenes in this book, and I'm just gonna say it got me a little uncomfortable at some points. I'll just say that. I just got very uncomfortable. The plot I thought was really well done. However, this was much more of a character-driven plot as opposed to just a standard plot where there is an event and things kind of transpire and you follow a character after that. This was definitely a character-driven plot, which I really enjoyed and I think actually worked really well for the story, because of the fact that a lot of things that are happening to Ava, she's not quite sure how to cope with. And the decisions she makes really changes the way things kind of go about in the story. And the reason it worked is because everything was fluid. I didn't see many places where there were big questions I had. I didn't feel like there was really any plot holes. I do have questions though in terms of the kind of vampire world, like how exactly that is compared to how other vampire worlds are established in other paranormal stories. it's not really well gone into, except the fact that there is a high priestess, there is some kind of governing force that is within the coven. I also really would like to commend Danielle Rose for her representation of Wiccan culture. So the witches in this are much more based in the Wiccan ideas of witchcraft, which I really, really appreciate, because that is something I have researched quite a bit throughout my life, as I have been very fascinated with the idea of witchcraft, not just from paranormal YA reads, but it's actually something I've been interested in since I was a little girl. Because if any of you are familiar with the movie Practical Magic with Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman, I watched that when I was little, and I continue to watch it all the time. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And I remember watching that when I was little and being so fascinated with the idea of witchcraft that I started to study Wiccan culture and rituals and things of that nature, just seeing kind of what everything was about it. Danielle Rose does a really great job of representing the Wiccan idea of witchcraft. It's nothing scary, it's nothing supernatural in the sense of something like The Traitor's Crux and Witch and Wizard by James Patterson and Gabrielle Charbonnet. In both of those, it's more of an actual supernatural force that the characters have, and they're considered to be witches and wizards because of it. Whereas this novel takes the more Wiccan side of it, where there are rituals and runes that they use, spells, there are concoctions they have that are used to bring about the supernatural powers that are in the world. And so I really liked the way that it was represented. I feel like it was done very tastefully. There wasn't anything that was done that I felt was incredibly stereotypical from what I know of Wiccan culture. And it definitely played more into the idea of using the natural forces as opposed to something completely different. So really the only reason I made this a 4-star out of 5-star novel and not a 5-star based on what I have told you guys is because the novel was way too short. Like I said, it was only 264 pages, but I wanted so much more, because the way that it had ended really had shown me that there's going to be more that's going to go into the story, but it ended on such a strange note that I wasn't quite sure on how to feel about, and so I just wanted more. I feel like the novel could have gone in such a different way if there would have been more added to that first book. But it does make me very excited to read the next two, and I will be reading the next 2 books in this trilogy because I'm sucked in, I'm ready to go. I definitely want to get Blood Magic, the 2nd book, and then Blood Promise, which is the new 3rd book that just came out not too long ago. So that's basically my thoughts on Blood Rose by Danielle Rose. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this book if you've read it down in the comments below, as I am so excited to talk with you guys about this. This is definitely one of my more favorite stories that I've read so far. And I just really wish there would have been more to it, but unfortunately I wasn't given that, so I had to kind of go off of what I had. So yeah, but if you guys did enjoy this video, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock, and I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!